So in February of this year, 2020, I had the wonderful opportunity to travel to the island of Maui in Hawaii. And while I was there on vacation, I was able to drive up to the top of the volcano there on the east side of the island, Haleakala, which means House of the Sun, and enjoy the sunrise there very early in the morning. It really was a breathtaking sight to behold. Once we were done enjoying the sunrise, I took the mountain bike that I had rented from the local bike shop, Crank Cycles, and headed over to the Skyline Trail, which is a descent trail from the top of the observatory at the top of the volcano at over 10,000 feet of elevation, and took it down the side of the volcano. Not one to give up an opportunity to record such an event. I had actually been planning for weeks beforehand, testing out the drone and the GoPro, getting my settings just right, and making sure that I had exactly the right gear. So what follows is the footage from that trip, from that trail ride down the volcano. I flew the Mavic 2 Pro in follow mode, as well as had the Hero 8 Black strapped to my chest. And I pretty much had them running the entire time. A few breaks to change batteries and swap out cards, but most of it was recorded on those devices. In some cases, the follow mode on the drone didn't work as well as I'd like. Being up that high with a lot of really harsh shadows, I got a little bit lost in some of the darkness along the sides of some of the hills, and the drone wasn't able to follow me, but in most instances it did a phenomenal job. So this is going to be a long one. I hope you don't mind, but if you like stuff like this, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Check me out on Instagram over at jblakePhoto, and enjoy the ride. Just a few things of note about this particular ride. Number one, you'll notice the backpack that I'm wearing is not a traditional trail backpack for mountain bikers. I actually had originally planned on taking the Peak Design 30-liter bag, the travel bag, with me. And if you've watched other videos on my channel, you'll know that I had been planning that for quite some time. But one of the pocket zippers broke on another hike on my Maui trip, and so I wasn't able to have it on this ride. So my wife and I had to outfit an IKEA bag that we happen to have with us to fit all of my camera gear and batteries, and also my food and a change of clothes with me on this ride. The other thing you'll notice is that this bike is just a little small for me. This is a giant Trance 29er in a size large. I had originally rented an Ibis Ritmo in an extra large, which is the size that I ride at home. But unfortunately, about a week before we arrived on the island, I was informed that that size, that particular bike, was no longer available. So I had to go with the smaller Giant. It wasn't really a big problem, and you can tell that I feel just a little apprehensive on that bike. The other thing you'll notice is that the brakes are very noisy, and that would become an issue later on in the ride, as this was over 20 miles of descent over 10,000 feet. By the end, the brakes were pretty much shot and actually smoking pretty badly. As I reached the bottom of the Skyline Trail, in order to get to the bottom of the volcano itself, I needed to veer off onto a different set of trails. And the trail that I went onto is called Mamani. And suddenly, the area that I was riding in changed completely from the almost Martian landscape of the top of the volcano into this beautiful alpine woodland. At this point, I decided to pack in the drone after a few last shots and dropped into the forest. super warm. I'm drenched in sweat. Which is funny because, like, what, two miles ago, the ground was frozen. Time to take off the jacket and the thermals. All right, onward and downward. Once I hit the bottom of the Mamani Trail, I ended up on a fire road that turned into kind of an asphalt single-lane road that took me to my next stop, which was the Haleakala Loop. Also, unfortunately, I had a bit of a mishap with the drone. Fortunately, everything was okay, just a couple of busted props, but it was out of commission for the rest of my Maui trip, unfortunately. Now, I won't show all the footage from the Haleakala Loop Trail. It was not super exciting. There was a lot of walking path, a lot of fallen trees, and honestly it looked like the overall quality of the trail, it hadn't been kept up and there wasn't a lot of traffic, but there was a lot of loose dirt, which resulted in things like that. Apparently the wild boars dig up the trail, and it creates these spots that are really easy to get your tires stuck in, which causes you to slip, slide, fall, and flip over. So after two pretty decent crashes, I decided to hike it out of there. I ended back on the asphalt road, which took me down to the bottom of the hill. Not before my brakes started smoking, though.
The brakes are on fire.
After about another 5 miles of downhill, I met up with my wife at the bottom of the hill, threw the bike in the back of the Jeep, and went to lunch. So that's it for my downhill adventure in Maui, on the Haleakala Volcano, through the Skyline Trail, the Mamani Trail, and the Haleakala Loop. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and hit like, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.